like dating apps for seniors. I'm an aging asexual. Wow. And my friend signed me up on this site called Never Too Late. It's for singles in hospice. So this elderly gentleman gifted me with my first penis portrait, I think. I was like, is that a melted candle? No, I think somebody poured salt on a slug. So after this show, we have a date. If you were wondering why I'm dressed like a ninth grade whore.
Oh my God. I've laughed at it several times. Sorry that it cut your head off. I hate that. I hate when it does that. But we get it. You know what I'm saying? We get the joke. You know what I'm saying? We don't really need to see your face to get what you're saying. Welcome to Skrilltown Talk. I'm your host, Mr. Skrilltown himself. And tonight we have the lovely, funny comedian, Gini Sikes. What's going on, Jenny?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. You making people laugh? Making people laugh all day long. So, Jenny, so let me give you a little bit about Jenny. We want to thank Jenny for the opportunity to interview her tonight. She's super funny. I've watched a couple of things on her already, and it's hilarious. I had to have you on. So we appreciate the time because I know how busy it can be. Yeah, but thank you. And something interesting while we were talking before we went on air is that she is familiar with Kansas City and Missouri. She is a MU grad, so I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
My family. I wasn't raised there, but my family's from Aurora, Missouri.
Aurora, Missouri. Okay, I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
It's near the Ozarks.
Yep. I know you're talking about. Yep. Down in the dumps. Okay. Well, let me give you a little bit about Jenny. She's an LA-based comedian. Appears at the Improv, the Comedy Store, the Gotham Comedy Club, as well as multiple crime scenes. Okay. An award-winning journalist, she interviewed serial murderers, drug mules, and gangbangers. Okay. She was raised in Wisconsin, a state known for cannibals like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ed Gein. She landed her first job at the teen magazine Tiger Beat, working with the woman who married Richard Ramirez, aka the notorious serial killer, the Night Stalker. Wow. In New York, she earned her master's in journalism from Columbia University. She served as an editor on both the Metropolis and the Mademoiselle magazine. As a writer, she captured the inner lives of such iconic actors as Nicolas Cage, Harrison Ford, along with coal miners, astrophysicists, and chimps who spoke sign language for numerous publications, including the Washington Post, Glamour, Vanity Fair, Essence, Travel, and Leisure, and the New York Times. And then in television, Jenny created programming for A&E, PBS, and VH1's Where Are They Now? At MTV, she produced episodes with the documentary series True Life, along with the critically acclaimed Rock the Vote 2000 election special. She also served as a production supervisor for multiple seasons of Matt Groening's Netflix animated series Disenchantment. Okay. After a year investigating girls and street gangs, she chronicled her experience in her book, Eight Ball Chicks, now used in college courses around the world. Due to the success of the literary and broadcast work, she's been invited as a crime expert on multiple platforms such as NPR, PBS, Geraldo Rivera, Bill O'Reilly, and an ID, investigative ID. And then it also says in 2018, she had enough of killing on the street and turned to killing on the stage. She's been blessed to perform with such headliners as Pete Holmes, Tom Arnold, Laurie Kilmartin, Aparna Nasheral, and Daryl Hammond. So you did a lot. You did like you just, I mean, you like a chameleon, man. You go from crime scenes to comedy shows. How does that work? Like, how did
Well,
you
I'll tell you
get into
what crime and comedy have in common is that crime doesn't pay either.
it? Yeah, so comedy don't pay, and neither does crime. Yeah. Okay. So what made you go from one extreme to the next? I mean, you're dealing with crime scenes and stuff, and now you're on a comedy stage. Like, how'd you get your mark in the comedy?
Well, yeah, okay. So, well, growing up, I grew up in Wisconsin, and we lived about 30 miles from where Ed Gein, killed people,
Yeah.
and so my mother was always telling us about serial killers all the time,
Oh my
and
God.
yeah, healthy childhood, and so my family had a dark sense of humor,
Mm-hmm.
and I wound up eventually being in New York. I started as an entertainment reporter, and I thought,
Mm.
well, I mean, it was I liked the people I met, but it wasn't interesting enough. And so
Yeah.
then
Mm-hmm.
in my hometown in Wausau, Wisconsin, my mom called me and she said that the Dairy Princess had strangled the homecoming queen over the love of a local farm boy at the Howard
Mm.
Johnsons.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I said, "Well, that's a story." And so
Mm-hmm.
I wound up covering that for Glamour magazine, and that led
Mm-hmm.
me to kind of doing the crime thing. And I didn't
Yeah.
get into comedy until like 5 years ago. Um,
Okay.
but I had always liked comedy and had
Mm-hmm.
known a lot of comedy writers, but I didn't never thought I could perform. It wasn't something I thought about.
Yeah. Wow. So I mean, what made you just say I'm just gonna go for it? I mean, you were so where are you at now? Are you in LA?
Yes. Yeah, I moved to
So
LA about 11 years ago.
okay, so being in LA, did it kind of motivate you to be on the stage? Because you get that a lot from people in LA. Like everybody's doing something in entertainment. So
That wasn't it because I lived in New York like 30 years, and I knew a lot of people who wrote comedy. Well, a lot of people, my friends, moved to LA to write to work on like The Simpsons and different
mm,
comedy shows.
yeah.
But I I I had always heard that stand-up comics were really nasty to each other, so I
Mm-hmm.
had no desire to do anything like that. And
Mm-hmm.
like 2018, I was finishing my last job, which was on a TV show called
Mm-hmm.
Disenchantment. And I was thinking, what can I do that I've never done before? I wanted to try, I like change. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to do something I never did. And I wound up taking a storytelling class, where you get up and you say a story, which was a big deal for me because I have stage
Mm-hmm.
fright. And a
Mm.
friend of mine saw me and he said, "You should do stand-up comedy." And I said, "No, I shouldn't." Um, but he convinced me to take a class with
Mm-hmm.
him, and I did. And if you're gonna be a stand-up comic, this is a real common experience. Like once you get on a stage and you feel that high, and usually your first performance is your best for a long time. It's just
Mm.
like it's just beginner's luck. It just seems to
Yeah.
happen. So it's kind of like then you're just chasing the dragon to get that feeling again that you got the first
Right.
time.
Wow. So, okay, so you've done a lot. So I'm gonna go back and some of the highlights. So you did the Tiger Beat for the Teen magazine, and then you did. It looks like you served as an editor on both the Metropolis and the Mademoiselle as a writer. So you have a lot of highlights in your life and career. And now that you're in LA and you've been in New York, So what brought you to LA? Because I mean, New York's already a big city. It's thriving. It's hustle and bustle. It's a lot going on. What brought you to LA from New York, and what made you want to like transition from being a writer and so into being a comedian?
Well, I love New York. I was there a real long time, and
Hmm.
but I had somebody in LA had called me because I wrote this book about a year I spent with girl gangs, and she was
Hmm.
interested in possibly turning it in, to pitch it as a TV show or something.
Yeah.
And so, she asked me if we wanted to work together, and I decided to go to LA and check it out. And
Hmm.
I got divorced. A lot of different things were different in my life, and I thought, well, um, I've been in New York 30 years. I had lived in LA for 2 years when I first got out of Mizzou. And then I
Mm.
was working for this company that put out Tiger Beat, which was a trip. That was a trip in and of itself. So, but
Hmm.
so I kind of knew LA, but it's very different now. I just
Hmm.
wanted to try something different, and I never ever would have imagined that I would be performing comedy. But
Yeah.
things change.
Right. Right. So how was it being an editor for those magazines, Mademoiselle and let me see what the other one was called.
Well, Tiger Beat was okay. So
Metropolis.
you probably didn't read Tiger Beat, but because you're a guy.
Mm.
But Tiger Beat was a magazine for mainly little girls or secretly gay boys, and it would be it just had pictures of like back in my day, Donny Osmond, Michael Jackson,
Mm.
Pull Out, and but they also had a magazine called Right On, which was
I think I
focused on
remember
black
that one. Hmm.
entertainers, and
Uh-huh.
it was a wacky place to work. I mean, I loved it, but it was wild. Like the publisher had his office was like shade carpeting, and he had a bar, and I think there was a pull-out bed, and
Oh man.
I don't know that it was used for any. Maybe he took naps, but
Right, right.
who knows? But then all these stars would come up there. Prince would come up there. Um, yeah, just they would just be running, in the office. But
Yeah.
my coworker was this woman who Tiger Beat had these different offshoot magazines, and she ran one of them, and she was the most uh, virginal, sweet girl you can imagine.
Hmm.
And but she would get obsessed with people. Like she got obsessed with Fred Astaire, and apparently he
Mm.
had to put a restraining order, so she would quit hanging out at his.
Whoa.
I mean, I don't know if that's absolutely true, but it was innocent stuff. Fred
Right.
Astaire, John Mathis is another one person she liked. Well, she got fascinated with Richard Ramirez when he was arrested for those horrible killings he did all around LA when he was the Night Stalker. And like a lot
Mm.
of who wrote him in prison, and he chose
Mhm.
her, and she moved into a boat off San Quentin.
What?
Yeah,
She really
and
was obsessed.
yeah, and I liked her, but she used to come into my office and she'd say something like, "Do you know how you want to die?" And I was 22 at the time. I'm like, I don't know. She goes, "I want to die in a burning car wreck, flying off a cliff. I
Mm.
want to this dramatic, exit." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, so
She
she
was a
was dramatic."
dreamer.
Yeah,
Yeah, a dramatic dreamer. Wow. So and so dealing with these, so you dealt with serial killers. You've
they were
wrote
always like
for.
somehow I was always hearing about serial killers. Like when I was little, and that tiger bite
Mhm.
Pete. There just was a lot
So
of connection to
okay.
serial.
So what's like one of the most interesting experiences you've had in a crime related situation with like all the stories and the experience and stuff like that? The what's the most gruesome and like most interesting all at the same time?
Yeah. this isn't necessarily the most gruesome, although there was a lot of violence. I wrote a book about a year I spent with girls that were in gangs, and
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of these gangs at the time, this was in the 90s, they would have auxiliary gangs of girls, and
Yeah.
I did it in Milwaukee, San Antonio, and LA. And that
Mm.
was wild. That was really wild because I focused on teenagers, and they were little, I mean, to be little kids. I mean, they range from
Yeah.
13 to 18. And
Mm-hmm.
just their, because they were still kids, like they thought it was funny to, um, my car was always dirty. I had a rental car. So they would put the name of a rival gang on
Mm.
they put it in the dust. So when I drove into,
Yeah, right there.
yeah, I'm like, guys, this isn't funny.
Right, right. I would get shot. Like what's going on?
And the thing is that I just am, like I'm honest with them. And,
Hmm.
even though I'm a journalist, my personality is a little goofy. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, one time I went into this room and this girl was on a bed with her boyfriend, and they had guns all around, like just guns on the
Mm.
bed. And then,
Yeah.
so she wanted to go somewhere, so I gave her a ride. And I looked in her purse. I was driving, and I looked in her purse, and I saw this teeny tiny gun. And I picked it up. I said,
Mm.
"Is this a cigarette lighter?" Because I thought it was like a novelty item, like a cigarette lighter.
Right, right.
She pulled it out of my hand. She goes, "Jesus, no!" I was so tiny.
Uh,
She also told me that she'd rather be in a drive-by shooting than in the passenger side of my car because I was such a bad driver.
oh my God.
But yeah, it's just the weird things that you find out as a journalist. I mean, being a journalist is a wonderful job. It's like being a
Hmm.
perpetual student because, every time you
Hmm.
go on to a new subject, you get to learn about it. But I mean, this was only by phone, but one time I was interviewing this woman for a possible story who had been arrested in Wisconsin
Hmm.
for she and her boyfriend had killed another boyfriend of hers.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
she was saying she didn't really have much to do with it. But he was found, they cut him up in her living room, and his penis was in the glove compartment of either her car or the boyfriend's car. Um, and talking to her, she just sounded like kind of a nice Wisconsin housewife.
Right, right. Then you find out that she's some serial, I mean, not serial killer, but some like maniac.
I mean, I'm not saying that everybody is a killer, but I think with the right
Hmm.
circumstances, not necessarily that you're going to cut up people and keep their penis in their glove compartment, but I do think that the act of killing, if all the circumstances you get angry, I mean, I think it's, I mean, obviously nobody, wants to kill unless they're psychopathic, but I, I don't think it's out of the realm of human experience. It's kind of on a continuum, some
Mm.
people are
Yeah.
on others. And not everybody who has killed somebody is as bad as their worst act, if that makes sense. Um,
Uh-huh.
People,
Yeah.
make mistakes, and they may pay for them, but they still may not be, evil, whatever that means.
Mhm. So, what do you think? Like the things that you've learned from being a reporter, being an editor of a magazine, like how did that help you become like a better comedian?
Well, I have more things to choose from. Like, the one thing about being a comedian is you kind of want to stand out. Like you want people to remember you by something. And
Hmm.
I actually, in my routine, I don't talk that much about being a crime journalist. I want to
Hmm.
get more into that, but I always do say something because people remember me as, oh, you're the crime reporter. So
Right.
it's a good thing to have, and it's actually like I just have some insights or some experiences that other comics might not have. Like a lot of people talk about serial killers right now,
Hmm.
almost probably too much, a lot of comics. But when I talk
Hmm.
about it, it's a little different because I have, some experience with it. I talk about like how true podcasts always act like you're going to be murdered by the next Ted Bundy. And I looked it up, and the odds of you being killed by a serial killer, this is according to one study, are 1 in 645,000. So people should cheer up. But, but statistically, before a psychopath can get you, you're more likely to kill yourself. Like the odds.
Okay. Yeah. Like, that makes me feel better.
Yeah, like watch out for you.
Right. Right. I don't need to watch out for other people, just watch out for myself. That's funny.
Which I think is funny. Not everybody does.
Yeah. I mean, the way you just put it is like, man, that is crazy. While everybody's watching out for everybody else and looking out for everybody else, you should just be looking out for yourself, because you're more dangerous to yourself than others are. That's funny.
The monster under the bed is you.
Right. So tell us a little bit about some of these programs that you created on A&E, PBS, and VH1 for where are they now?
Oh yeah. Well, the one that I'm probably most proud of, I don't know if you knew this, but Paramount, which owns MTV and VH1, they just apparently erased all the past, like of MTV News and documentaries. They got rid of it.
Really?
They got rid of VH1. Yeah. Now I don't know if somebody is going to be able to do a deep dive and get them, but I mean, just the thing is, regardless of what you think of MTV, it's a cultural. It's a it's a landmark.
Historical.
And especially in the way that they covered, in the beginning, they did not have Black artists on, which says something about the culture. Later on, they were very good at introducing politics to young people. They like they had reporters who interviewed the presidents and stuff. And the thing that I was most proud of is in 2000, we did a documentary or an hour program where we interviewed the candidates. And at that time it was Al Gore, George Bush, John McCain. And we interviewed about what they were like when they were young and got footage of them when they were teenagers and stuff, which I thought was great, a great approach to it, a great way of getting young people interested. So that I was very proud of. And then
was that the first Rock the Vote?
It was not the first. And they chose the Rock the Vote. Either it changed its name or it was a different entity, but they started calling it Choose or Lose, and so it was under.
Okay, I remember that Choose or Lose. Wow.
But they sent me some great places. I went into a coal mine. Like we went down to West Virginia in 2000 to cover the OxyContin crisis, and at that point, it was in Appalachian, and it was, kids were stealing it from their coal miner parent, dad. I never dreamed that 24 years later it'd still just worse, but like I got to go down. I mean, I didn't have to go down a coal mine, but somebody offered, so I said okay. And we went down on a flat wagon, where you have to lie down. And when we got down there, and it's just like you would. I mean, nothing's changed since whenever they first started coal mining. I mean, you're in a black hole, and the only light is on your head. So it is really like, it's horrible conditions. I mean, you might make a good salary, but there's no way you can make it a great place to work. And this man asked me what we were doing, and we said, we're doing a story on OxyContin. And then he said, my granddaughter killed herself because of OxyContin. And apparently she shot herself rather than be hooked on it. And it was such a sad moment, and also one that I didn't expect to get while I was in a coal mine, I didn't have a camera at the time, but it affected, me. And
absolutely. Wow. So you worked for MTV, and doing specials with A&E, PBS, VH1. That's incredible. So tell us a little bit about some of the experiences you've had with, like let me see, it says the Improv, the Comedy Store, and the Gotham Comedy Club so far.
Yeah. So, well, it's interesting because in LA, it's so interesting being in LA because comics just go into clubs, famous comics go into clubs and try out material all the time. So, uh, you can be doing your routine and then Sarah Silverman or Jim
Mm,
Gaffigan get up on stage and do his or hers,
yeah, right.
which which is wild, to be able to see them all the time. It was funny when I first
Hmm.
moved to LA, I was like, oh, there's, Jeff Goldblum or there's blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, this is where they live. They have to live somewhere. And they have
Right,
to go,
right.
right. And they have to go to grocery stores, you know?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, they're normal
uh,
people.
and, of course, a lot of celebrities live in New York, but New York also has many different industries, finance. I think it's more, maybe a little bit more diverse in terms of the different kind of industries.
Yeah.
But LA doesn't pay. LA doesn't pay comedy unless you're up there. Like they're like,
Right.
hey, you can get time to come on, stage, which is
Hmm.
great. But
Yeah.
um, and New York is, I think New York. I kind of wished I had discovered comedy in New York because in New York you can jump on the train and go to a club, jump on the train, go to another club. Like you can just all night go to different mics or shows. In LA, you got to drive there, and that's a drag.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Wow. And you just, is it kind of like open mic opportunities that you've had at the Comedy Store and the
No,
Improv?
they were shows.
Right.
They were shows. But a lot of them, there are a lot of independent shows. So
Hmm.
you might be getting, if you go to the Improv, there's this
Hmm.
guy named Jimmy Shin who's a producer and a comic, and he'll get people, he'll get big names, and then I may be on that show, you know.
Yeah.
So same with the Comedy Store, like you get a producer goes in, brings a show, and that.
Hmm.
So, but you're always working. It's called being passed, and when you're passed, it means that the club has decided you are going to be a regular, and then they'll put you
Oh,
in rotation. But they
they
have
put
to
you
see you a
on.
lot, and it's
Right.
it's very random. Like you have to go there, and you get your name in a hat, and they pull out your name. If they pull out your name, and then you get 3 minutes. I mean, it's
Really?
unless you
Wow.
know somebody.
And you
So
better be ready for that 3 minutes. Once they pull your name, it's one of those type of things. So you
right.
already have to have rehearsed and stuff like that. Okay,
Oh yeah.
so yeah. Um, so what was I gonna ask? It was one. Oh yeah, give us your first experience on stage as a comedian.
Well, the first experience, as I mentioned, like it was great. Like there
Mhm.
is some magic that happens the first time. I don't know why, but like somebody told me it's the same with golf or anything. Like usually there's beginner's luck.
Right.
Um, and I was actually sick, but I did great. I mean, and I
Mm.
don't say that about myself. That I don't say that about myself very often. But
Hmm.
what's more interesting to me is when I first did really bad, because
Oh.
because for me, I didn't come with a performance background, so the idea of going up on stage and telling stories, and at first, I wound up taking a lot of classes and studying with people, but
Hmm.
there's a learning curve, and before
Right.
it becomes your bones and stuff, and so Jimmy Shin, who is this comedian here in LA, gave me my
Hmm.
first break, and I got up in
Mm.
a bar where people were there to see a comedy show. But I got up and I bombed. I mean, I got some. I mean, it wasn't completely, it wasn't like people heckled me or booed or,
Right.
like got some laughs, whatever. But
Mhm.
And I walked off stage and I went in the bathroom and I said, all right, I just bombed and nothing has changed. I'm still here, you know, nothing's changed. I will I'll do something else tomorrow, more comedy. So it was
Mhm.
almost like a good experience. Like
Right,
the first,
right. Okay.
because I mean, you hopefully stop bombing, but everybody bombs, occasionally, and who knows
Mhm.
why. Like you can do the same set and do it the next night, and the audience thinks you suck. But it was
Right.
really liberating to realize, like, hey, I'm not gonna cry.
Right,
I'm
right.
not.
I'm gonna do this again. I'm coming back and
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it again.
yeah.
Right. Okay. And that after that situation, that like what told you, like, you know what, regardless of what just happened, I'm gonna be a comedian.
Well, I think just the fact that I used to, like, literally, I don't know why, but even when I used to interview celebrities, and my job as a journalist was to go out and talk to people, which was not hard.
Mhm.
It's my
Right.
persona, it's a job. Like, even with the gang kids, I would never go there, just as me, and go, hey, you want to
Mhm.
hang out, because
Right.
I wouldn't. But when I
Right.
have a job, it's totally different for me. So, and I never would go up to a celebrity as me and go, hey, I'm a big fan. Can we talk? But when you
Mhm.
have a job, they're willing to talk to you. So,
Yeah.
so I had been so scared of public speaking that I remember one time I was sitting on stage with somebody. We were supposed to get up and talk about. They asked me back at Columbia to talk, Missouri, not Missouri, but New York, to
Columbia
talk about my
University.
when I was a
Mhm.
young editor. And my friend was going, "Will your knee stop shaking? You're shaking the whole table." And I
Right.
couldn't. I could barely speak. And I can't believe that that's the same person who, you know, now can get up and
Yeah, and do a stand up for
yeah.
however long. Yeah, okay. So tell us about what you have coming up for the rest of the year as far as comedy. Where can we find you as far as any specials, any showcases, anything like that, any events?
Well, I want to tell you, there's a comedian that I know that's in Kansas City. Her name is
What's his name?
that's
What's their name?
well, she might be in Kansas City, Kansas. Her name is Jay Patterson, and she was on this TV show on Netflix called The Trust, and they called
Okay.
her Mama Jay, and
Oh,
and she's still out there. But she and I are friends
mm-hmm.
through the internet and stuff. But she and I are going to Michigan in September to do some clubs up there. I've done New
Okay.
York and LA, but I kind of want to do the Midwest, and I
Yeah, yeah.
to do Wisconsin. And so that's in September. And then I'm basically right now in LA doing shows.
Doing
So
shows
yeah,
at the Comedy Store and the Improv
Ice
and
House, and yeah.
Nice House. Okay. Yeah, well, cool. And I'd love to have you here in Kansas City. I've talked to a couple other comedians from California. Lynn's son, I talked to her a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah. I know.
you know, yeah. See, I had an interview with her not too long ago, and then another comedian, Mason LeCompte. She's
I
also
know Mason. Yeah,
there you go. I'm out to yeah. We're gonna have to work on getting y'all to come to Kansas City because I think that would be really cool.
I would
Um,
love to. Oh, do you know Kim Cleffinger? She's also another Kansas City, but Missouri. She's a comic in
yeah.
LA, but she comes out to Kansas City, Missouri. No, is she Missouri? No, she is Missouri. She went to Mizzou. She went to
Oh,
Mizzou,
okay.
and
Uh-huh.
so
Wow.
she's another one. We should do a tour.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know a lot of comedians, but I will say this. Yeah, if you guys came, it would be, oh man, y'all have the house rocking. It'd be laughing for the whole hour. I think it'd be a good time.
I
So
would love
tell
to.
us,
I've got friends there.
yeah, see, that makes it even better. So tell us where we can find you online. If anybody wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
So Instagram, it's just Gini Sikes, which is It's like Wanda Sykes with an I, and Gini is Gini. I have a joke about somebody came up to me and goes, Gini Sikes, are you related to Wanda Sykes? I was like, yeah, people ask me that all the time. You see the physical, I go, but yeah,
Right.
anyway.
Yeah, that's my half cousin.
I wish I were, but yeah, Gini Sikes on Instagram, same thing on Facebook. I have a YouTube channel, and also my website is GiniSykesComedy.com.
GiniSykesComedy.com. So you heard it. I will let you know that this will be rebroadcasted on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So we will have some rebroadcasting where people will be able to see it again. But like Gini said, check her out on Instagram and YouTube for the most part, or you can always go to her website.
Thank you. You've been great.
Oh yeah, no problem. And like I said, we will talk again about getting you and the others to come to Kansas City and make us laugh.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I'm going to call my friend and get a place to stay.
Yeah. There you go. You got plenty of options. Yeah, or you might even go up to MU and see if you can crash there in one of the dorms.
Oh God.
So you alumni, so you should always have a place to stay there. So
Yeah.
But thanks again, Gini. And we will talk to you soon. Thanks everybody who tuned in and who will be tuning in. And we will talk to you later. All right, Gini, have a good night.
You too. Right. Good night.
Thank you.
It's like a lonely road when you're all alone. Just stay focused, stay in your zone, gotta keep control. You can't love nobody else if you can't love yourself. To change the future, be willing, first we must change ourselves. I'm on a pause, which is fine. I got a pause, which is fine. There's a pause, which is fine.